Hey guys, tonight we drift back across centuries, into a world where the stones of old cities still carry whispers. We travel softly into the era of Saladin, Jerusalem, and the Crusades. You are not marching, you are not fighting, you are simply listening, resting, and imagining. This is a quiet journey into memory, where history becomes a lullaby and the past offers no sharp edges. And honestly, if you had lived through the 12th century with armor and dust, you probably would not have survived long enough to complain about the heat. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you settle in, I would love to know where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit quietly, breathing at an unhurried rhythm. In your imagination, the air carries the faint scent of parchment and dust, as though you had entered an ancient library left open overnight. The shelves rise around you, heavy with scrolls, while moonlight filters through a narrow lattice. History tells us that the fall of Jerusalem in 1187 stirred the world, reaching across seas, mountains, and deserts. It was not only the loss of the city, but the spark that would ignite the Third Crusade, a movement of kings and armies, of vows and hopes. Yet here, in this quiet space, you are not hearing the clash of steel. You are resting on the threshold, listening to the wheel of time turn slowly, like waves rolling steadily toward a distant shore. The fall of Jerusalem did not happen all at once, though later generations remembered it as sudden. It was the result of years of struggle, shifting alliances, and betrayals. Like a candle burning lower each night, the light of Crusader power flickered before dimming. You lean closer in imagination, as though warming your hands at that faint, fading glow. Far from Jerusalem, in Damascus, scribes bent over parchment, copying careful accounts of these events. Ink flowed across the page in silence, bridging their moment to ours. But not everything endured. Some manuscripts were consumed by fire, leaving only fragments. The library in Damascus, vast and fragile, bore witness to both preservation and loss. Imagine shelves stacked with parchment, edges curling under desert heat, and then darkness pierced by sparks, flames racing along the fragile records. What survived whispers still. What vanished leaves silences deeper than words. You sit with that silence, letting it wrap around you. What is missing can weigh as much as what remains. The burned manuscripts remind us that history is never complete. Every era keeps secrets, folded away in smoke and ash. Scholars have wondered what disappeared that day, perhaps vivid accounts of Jerusalem's streets, or poems scrawled in margins, or notes of how ordinary people endured. These mysteries soothe you, because uncertainty leaves space for dreaming. History is like candlelight. It reveals certain corners while leaving others in shadow. You cannot see everything, yet the outlines are enough. Enough to feel the presence of lives once lived with the same quiet breath you now hold. In this moment, the Third Crusade has not yet begun to march. It exists only as a stirring, the hush before dawn. News traveled slowly then, carried by merchants, pilgrims, or riders across mountains and seas. Imagine standing at a city gate, hearing for the first time that Jerusalem had fallen. The words arrive like a cool wind, reshaping the air. Perhaps bells once tolled in distant towns, their bronze voices trembling through narrow stone alleys. You pause in your imagination, leaning into the sound as it lingers, until the ringing dissolves into a softer hum, steady and low, echoing the rhythm of your own heartbeat. The weight of news once traveled on those waves of sound, yet here you are, feeling only their gentle trace. And when your mind turns toward Jerusalem, you do not picture ruin or flames. Instead, you see moonlight draped across pale stone walls, silvering their edges with quiet grace. The domes shimmer as though reflecting a still pool of night sky, calm and unbroken. Even in the midst of great upheaval, the city holds a beauty that resists time itself, the kind of beauty you notice on a tranquil evening, when you lift your eyes to the stars and feel no need to hurry. You trace with thought the winding streets, market stalls where cinnamon, saffron, and dried roses scented the air. Trade and devotion mingled under lantern light. The fall of Jerusalem becomes not only a heavy truth, but also a page in a long story. Tonight, you drift across that page as if stepping gently from stone to stone across a stream. Even the image of armies softens. Banners do not roar in violence, but flutter like cloth at dawn, rippling gently in a morning breeze. Somewhere, a monk copied scripture by lamplight, unaware of how history bent outside his door. Somewhere, a child chased pigeons, unaware that kings and sultans had shifted the world. You linger among those unnoticed lives, the quiet barefoot step upon cool stone, the faint trickle of water falling into a fountain, the tender rhythm of breath that belongs to ordinary days. History may echo in shouts of conquest and loss, yet it is lived most truly in whispers, soft enough to be missed unless you pause to listen. Your thoughts drift like caravans, journeying across an endless road, each step unhurried, each halt carrying the gift of rest. Nothing presses forward with urgency. Time stretches gently, like fabric loosened in the evening air. In the distance, the ember of the Third Crusade glows within the ashes of Jerusalem's fall. It is not yet fire, only a quiet promise, waiting. You do not move toward it, nor do you turn away. You simply watch the glow, steady and still, like the night itself. And as you close this moment, you carry both presence and absence, what is told and what is forgotten. You rest in that balance, letting your shoulders ease, letting the silence deepen. The night feels wide, the history soft. You are safe here, at the gentle beginning of a long whispered journey. You picture the horizon over Damascus, shifting slowly from night to morning. The air is cool, the streets still quiet, and the first rays of the sun creep across tiled roofs. You walk through this silence in your imagination, feeling the stones beneath your feet still holding the night's coolness. The city breathes differently at dawn. Minarets rise like slender trees against the pale sky, their outlines softened by mist. You can almost smell fresh bread baking in hidden courtyards, the comforting kind of scent that makes you pause and wonder if you should pretend to be hungry just to enjoy it longer. Damascus, at this time in history, is not simply a city. It is a capital that connects cultures and worlds, a place where merchants, poets, and warriors cross paths. Here Saladin prepared, not with hurried steps, but with steady vision. He had been born in Tikrit, far to the northeast, yet his path carried him to Egypt and then to Syria, until he became Sultan of both. You reflect on how improbable journeys shape lives. From the banks of the Tigris to the courtyards of Cairo, Saladin's life unfolded like a caravan route, with pauses, detours, and destinations that seemed impossible at the beginning. You think of your own life's detours, though probably with fewer horses and more awkward text messages. As the dawn deepens, the streets awaken. Merchants begin arranging baskets of figs, dates, and pomegranates. Their quiet chatter drifts on the air, mingling with the calls of birds from hidden gardens. You notice that the city moves without rush, as though every sound is careful not to disturb the calm of the new day. Somewhere in a palace chamber, Saladin is said to have prayed through much of the night. Chronicles describe him as deeply devout, often awake long after others had gone to rest. There are stories that his lamp never went out, glowing softly like a star within the darkened halls. You linger with that image, a single flame burning steadily while the city around it sleeps. Was it a candle? An oil lamp? Perhaps both, depending on the night. Whatever the source, the glow became a symbol of his endurance. Even historians admit they cannot be sure how literal those accounts are, but the mystery itself feels soothing. Imagine stepping quietly into that chamber, where the only light flickers against carved wooden panels. The air carries the scent of wax, and perhaps a faint trace of incense. Saladin kneels, his shadow stretching long, and outside the window, the moon slowly gives way to dawn. The city changes color now. Walls turn from gray to gold as the sun clears the horizon. You feel as though you are watching the city stretch, like someone rising lazily from a long nap. Even the doves on the rooftops shuffle their feathers as if reluctant to start the day. Damascus has always been a city of water. Streams and canals feed gardens, where apricot and almond trees flourish. You imagine yourself beside one of those canals, listening to the soft trickle, the water reflecting both dawn light and your drifting thoughts. The rhythm is steady enough to slow your own heartbeat. Saladin's rise was not merely a story of battles. It was also about building trust, guiding people, and uniting divided lands. Egypt and Syria did not always move together, but under his hand they grew connected, like two halves of a bridge finally meeting. You picture that bridge in your mind, not of stone, but of calm, flowing light. The quiet strength of a leader can sometimes feel more powerful than noise. You think about that while the city fully awakens. The market grows louder, but it still carries a softness, as though everyone knows life continues best when not hurried. Some say Saladin preferred simplicity, that his personal belongings were few, that he dressed plainly despite his high position. This contrasts with the glitter you might expect of a sultan. It makes you smile, imagining someone with the power of empires, but the heart of a man who just wants a comfortable pair of sandals. And perhaps that is why his story feels calming when told slowly. It reminds you that even in grand narratives, there are moments of ordinary humanity. A lamp burning, a man kneeling, a city waking. These details are the soft threads that hold the tapestry together. As the morning unfolds, you notice the balance of light and shadow across the city. Narrow alleys remain cool and dim, while open plazas glow with brightness. The mix is not unlike your own mind at rest, some thoughts clear, others resting in gentle shadow. You walk along a street where stalls display textiles dyed in deep indigo and crimson. The cloth moves faintly in the breeze, rippling like water. The patterns remind you of time itself, flowing endlessly, but leaving moments of beauty for those who pause to notice. Beyond the market, you hear the call to prayer rise, echoing against the walls and drifting into the air above gardens and palaces. It is a reminder of rhythm, of cycles, of devotion carried across the hours of the day. You listen quietly, letting the sound fade into your own breathing. The story of Saladin's preparation is not about urgency. It is about patience. He built alliances, considered options, and moved carefully, like someone tending a delicate garden. The fruit of that garden would one day reshape Jerusalem, but here in Damascus at dawn, you only notice the blossoms, not the battles. And you realize that mystery still lingers in the glow of that ever-burning lamp. Did it truly stay alight all night, or was it only a metaphor? The truth does not matter. What matters is that you can imagine it, steady and warm, guiding the hours of darkness until morning returned. The sun is now higher, spilling light onto the domes of mosques and the courtyards of homes. Life hums gently through the streets, and you find yourself drifting with it, unhurried, like dust motes dancing in a sunbeam. The city breathes, and you breathe with it. And as this part of the journey closes, you remain in that stillness, the lamp of the Sultan glowing somewhere behind palace walls. The market's alive, but never rushed, and the waters of the canals carrying both light and quiet into every corner of Damascus. You drift now, softly, toward another city, Jerusalem. The journey is quiet in your imagination, a slow movement across rolling hills and dusty plains. The rhythm of walking is steady, as though you, too, are a pilgrim, placing one foot gently before the other, listening to the sound of sandals against ancient paths. Jerusalem has always been more than a city. It is a heart, a place where stories, prayers, and hopes from many faiths converge. For Christians, it is where Jesus walked, taught, and suffered. For Muslims, it is where the Prophet Muhammad is believed to have ascended to heaven during the night journey. For Jews, it is the site of the ancient temple, a focus of longing and memory. You can almost feel these layers, stacked gently like pages in a well-worn book. When pilgrims approached the walls, they often paused. Imagine the moment, the golden light of morning striking the stones, voices hushed, a sense of both awe and quiet expectation. Some would weep softly, others would bow their heads, and some would simply stand still, letting the atmosphere sink into their hearts. The streets of Jerusalem in these times were narrow and winding, paved with stones that had felt centuries of footsteps. Merchants sold bread, olives, and spices in the markets, their voices weaving into the hum of the city. Water trickled through fountains, carrying coolness into the air. The sounds, though ordinary, seemed to pilgrims like part of something larger, an orchestra of daily life surrounding the sacred. You imagine yourself entering through one of the gates, the air carrying both dust and incense. Each corner reveals a new sight, a church bell ringing softly, a call to prayer rising above rooftops, a group of travelers lighting small candles in the shadow of an archway. It feels as if the city itself breathes devotion. The event remembered in Chronicles is simple yet profound: Jerusalem's role as a shared holy city. To three great faiths, it was and remains a place of divine closeness. People came from distant lands, walking for weeks or months, carrying little but determination. Their journeys were not battles, but acts of quiet endurance, each step a prayer. You think of how many voices the city must have heard. The whispered prayers of monks in stone chapels, the chants of imams within courtyards, the songs of Jewish families at the Western Wall. Each voice different, yet somehow harmonizing in a single atmosphere of longing and hope. And then there is the mystery, passed along like a half-remembered dream. Some pilgrims claimed that near the Temple Mount, at certain hours of the night, they heard singing strange, ethereal, unlike any human choir. They described it as the voices of angels, carried on the wind, echoing faintly as though from a distance just beyond reach. You pause with that thought. Was it only the wind whistling through arches, or the murmur of late-night prayers blending together? Perhaps it was simply the sound of one's own heart, moved to stillness and wonder. Yet the image of angelic voices lingers, gentle and comforting, like a lullaby carried through stone corridors. The city never fully sleeps. Even when night folds over its walls, small lamps glow in hidden courtyards, and quiet footsteps of guards trace the rhythm of vigilance along the gates. Pilgrims, weary from long roads, stretch out beneath the stars, their murmurs fading into the hush of evening. You picture yourself among them, lying upon a simple blanket, stones beneath you still holding the sun's warmth. Above, the night sky stretches wide and unhurried, its depth holding countless stars that shine like patient lanterns. Their light does not rush, but lingers softly, as though watching over the earth below. Across the air drift sounds so delicate they could belong to anyone or to no one at all. Perhaps they are the hushed voices of weary travelers resting from the road, or the echoes of prayers rising into the dark. Or perhaps they are something less human, more eternal, a murmur of the universe itself, carried gently on the breath of the wind. During the day, processions sometimes moved through the streets. Pilgrims carried small wooden crosses or prayer beads worn smooth from use. They stopped at fountains to drink and at shrines to whisper intentions. These movements were not hurried. They had the calm rhythm of people who know their destination is not just a place, but a feeling, a peace found slowly. You reflect on how the city has seen so many layers of history. Empires rose and fell, rulers came and went, yet the pilgrims kept walking year after year. Their footsteps are like gentle waves against an ancient shore, steady and endless. Perhaps the most calming image is of the evening when the sun sets behind the hills. The stones of the city glow golden, then fade to pink, then to gray. Lamps are lit, casting a warm halo in windows. The streets quiet down, and a soft breeze stirs through the trees. Pilgrims gather their cloaks, eat simple meals of bread and figs, and let the day close around them. You picture yourself there, in the twilight. The city around you feels eternal, yet the moment is fleeting. The blend of faiths, the whispers of prayers, the mystery of voices near the Temple Mount, it all merges into one calming atmosphere. Thus, Jerusalem reveals itself not as a stage for endless conflict, but as a sanctuary of devotion, where true strength is found not in crowns or swords, but in the gentle endurance of faith. Within its walls, the leaf lingers like a steady flame, unwavering even in times of turmoil. The paths of countless pilgrims weave together, crossing and recrossing through centuries, their presence forming an unseen tapestry of devotion. Though their footsteps fade, carried off by wind and time, the earth remembers them in silence. Each prayer, each whispered vow, becomes part of the city's foundation, as enduring as stone, as tender as breath, preserving Jerusalem not only in history, but in the heart of all who journey there. As you let the image fade, you remain with that feeling, the stillness of a holy city at dusk, the gentle murmur of unseen choirs, and the sense that every step toward Jerusalem has always been a step toward peace within. You move gently through the winding streets of Jerusalem, allowing each step to slow your pace. The stones beneath you are polished by centuries of footsteps, carrying the memory of pilgrims and merchants long gone. Around you, the air is alive with fragrances, the warm, earthy scent of bread rising from a baker's oven, the sharp sweetness of spices spilling from open sacks, the faint trace of oil lamps flickering in quiet courtyards. Every corner offers something to linger on, as if the city itself whispers for you to notice. Nothing presses forward in haste here. Instead, sound and scent unfold with patient rhythm, inviting you to breathe deeply and remain in the stillness of the moment. Jerusalem in the 12th century was more than a holy city. It was a marketplace of the world, a living tapestry where traders, pilgrims, and locals all moved together. You can picture stalls lined with colorful cloths, silks from the east, wool dyed with deep reds and blues, delicate embroidery stitched by careful hands. Nearby, baskets brim with ripe dates and figs, their sweetness filling the air. Jars of honey gleam in the soft sunlight, turning each drop into liquid gold. The scene carries a sense of quiet celebration, like a festival hidden in plain sight. Yet nothing feels hurried or extravagant. The market moves with calm assurance, each gesture unforced, each exchange unhurried, as though the city itself breathes in time with the slow, steady rhythm of patience that has guided it for centuries. The walls surrounding Jerusalem stood tall and strong. They were not just stone barriers, but silent guardians, keeping the city's heart intact. As you trace them in your mind, you imagine sentinels pacing calmly along the top, their lanterns glowing in the evening. From outside, the walls looked unshakable. From inside, they gave people a sense of protection, as if the city itself was embracing them in a quiet hug. Within those walls, sacred places rose with dignity. Churches glimmered with candlelight, their bells sending soft notes into the morning air. Mosques echoed with the call to prayer, a sound that spread like a gentle ripple through the streets. Synagogues gathered worshippers who whispered their ancient words, carrying memories of the temple that once stood. Three faiths shared this one place, weaving together an unseen harmony, fragile yet deeply rooted. The markets were the city's beating heart. Imagine the voices of merchants calling out, not with urgency, but with warm invitation. They offered almonds, cinnamon, olive oil, and bright glass beads. Coins chimed softly as they passed from palm to palm, each note carrying the weight of trust and exchange. Now and then, laughter rang out, bright and sudden, like sunlight slipping between drifting clouds. Around the stalls, voices rose in a rhythm both playful and serious, the bargaining of markets that was less battle than a kind of music. Words rose and fell like verses, gestures punctuated the cadence, and smiles often sealed what numbers could not. In the end, both buyer and seller walked away satisfied, each holding not just goods, but the warmth of human connection. Yet beyond the trade and devotion, Jerusalem carried mysteries. One story, passed quietly from mouth to ear, told of a well hidden within the city. They said it never ran dry, no matter how long the summer stretched or how heavy the sieges pressed. People whispered that its waters were blessed, a secret gift from ages past. Some even believed that drinking from it could ease not only thirst but sorrow, washing away sadness like dust from weary feet. You imagine the well now, its stones cool to the touch, its water shimmering faintly in the torchlight. Perhaps a pilgrim bent down to drink, and in that moment felt lighter, as if the weight of their journey had quietly lifted. Whether truth or legend, the story flowed through the city like a hidden stream, comforting those who believed. The streets of Jerusalem seemed to weave themselves into a living web, each corner and alley a place where paths converged. Travelers arrived from every direction, pilgrims from Cairo, merchants out of Damascus, and envoys journeying from distant Constantinople. Their voices mingled in the air, accents rising and falling in a tapestry of languages, some familiar, others strange yet harmonious. Garments of every hue caught the eye, silks that shimmered like water, wool cloaks heavy with dust, linen robes touched by the desert wind. Each piece of clothing carried the imprint of another land, another story, another horizon. In this crossroads city, differences did not clash but overlapped, creating a rhythm of exchange that pulsed through the very stones. A camel loaded with saffron might walk slowly past a group of monks, while children chased each other in laughter. Each meeting was brief, but together they created the feeling of a crossroads, an intersection not just of roads, but of lives. Jerusalem's mood was not hurried, even when crowded. Time seemed to stretch, as if each moment invited people to notice small things. The way sunlight touched a dome at sunrise, the way a fountain splashed in a shaded courtyard, the way a stranger's smile could carry kindness across language barriers. These details, though simple, gave the city its calm strength. In the evenings, the markets quieted, shutters closed, and lamps flickered on doorsteps. Families gathered over bowls of lentil soup or warm bread, while travelers settled into inns where straw mats lined the floors. Outside, the streets grew softer in sound, footsteps fewer, voices hushed. The walls of the city seemed to breathe more slowly, as though preparing for rest. You might imagine yourself sitting on one of those steps, watching lanterns sway gently in the night breeze. The city, even in silence, feels alive. It holds centuries within its stones, countless prayers within its air, and endless footsteps upon its paths. Every corner offers both the ordinary and the sacred, reminding you that the two are never far apart. As you think of the story of the well, you smile a little. It might be only a tale, but perhaps that is enough. A city that holds such stories also holds hope, and hope is as refreshing as water on a long journey. You breathe slowly, letting that thought settle, and the crossroads of Jerusalem become a place not of conflict, but of gentle connection, where faith, trade, and mystery quietly meet. You find yourself drifting slowly across the rolling hills of Galilee, where every slope rises and falls like the gentle breathing of the land. The summer wind moves the tall grass in soft waves, creating a rhythm that feels almost like the sea, though no water is in sight. The air is warm and fragrant, carrying with it the mingled scents of crushed wild herbs beneath your feet, the dry sweetness of sun-baked soil, and the faint perfume of nearby olive groves, whose branches whisper as they sway. Above you stretches a pale blue sky, vast and unbroken, holding no trace of clouds, only the steady presence of light. That light seems reluctant to fade, as if the sun itself is content to linger here, watching over this calm expanse. Each step you take feels unhurried, as if the ground itself welcomes your presence without demand. The air carries no weight of urgency, only the soft murmur of wind weaving through grass and stone. Time seems to pause, loosening its hold, allowing you to move in harmony with the land. The hills do not press you forward. Instead, they invite you to linger, to notice the patience of earth and sky, waiting gently with a silence deeper than words. It is July in the year 1187, and a gathering of men begins to take shape. Nearly 20,000 soldiers of the Crusader armies arrive near the waters of Tiberias. They move slowly across the dusty plains, their armor glinting faintly under the sun. From a distance, the metallic shine looks less like preparation for war and more like scattered stars that have fallen onto the earth. Their banners rise into the air, bright with crosses, though their flapping is softened by the steady breeze. You imagine the camps as they form. Tents stretch across the fields, rows upon rows, creating small villages of canvas. Fires crackle quietly as meals are prepared. The smell of roasted grain drifts lazily, mingling with smoke that curls into the evening sky. Horses stand tethered, shifting their weight, their tails swishing slowly, unbothered by the heavy presence of so many men. It is not the roar of battle that you feel here, but the deep inhale before something vast. The men of the Crusader host rest on the grass, speaking in low voices, polishing weapons, or simply staring into the distance. Their faces are touched with weariness, though the silence around them carries an odd serenity. From afar, it does not seem like an army on the edge of battle. It feels like a gathering of travelers, pausing together in the stillness of the land. The hills absorb their presence without complaint, as if the earth has seen many such gatherings before. The Sea of Galilee lies not far away, its surface shimmering in the heat of the day. You picture its waters stretching calmly, a mirror that reflects the open sky. Birds fly overhead, hipping toward the shoreline, and circling back into the air. The gentle rhythm of nature moves on, unaffected by the heavy armor or sharpened blades resting nearby. Time itself seems stretched, the hours of daylight passing in long, slow arcs. And yet, within this quiet, there is an undercurrent. Chronicles tell us that on the night before the great clash at Hattin, something strange occurred in the sky. A light, unearthly and shimmering, was seen above the fields. Some said it glowed red, others swore it was pale green, pulsing faintly like the breath of some unseen presence. It hung there for a while, then drifted slowly before fading into the night. Whether it was a sign, a vision, or merely a trick of the atmosphere, no one could be certain. The mystery lingered like a whisper carried on the wind. You can imagine the men lying awake in their tents, staring upward with uneasy eyes. Did they feel awe or dread or only confusion? Perhaps for some, it was a reminder of the heavens watching. For others, it may have been nothing more than a tale to repeat when silence grew too heavy. Either way, the strange glow became part of the night, woven into the calm before the storm. As the hours stretch onward, the fields grow cooler. Crickets begin to sing their soft chorus, filling the darkness with steady rhythm. The fires in the camp burn lower, their embers glowing faintly like a trail of stars left behind on the ground. Soldiers close their eyes, though sleep comes slowly. The air holds a waiting stillness, heavy, yet not oppressive, like the pause before a word is spoken. You walk through this imagined camp as a silent observer. Each tent breathes with the slow rhythm of men at rest. Somewhere a priest whispers a prayer, the Latin words dissolving gently into the night air. Somewhere else, a knight traces the shape of a cross on his chest, before leaning back against a bundle of straw. Horses shuffle softly, their hooves pressing into the soil. The earth accepts each sound without echo, absorbing it into its ancient stillness. The hills surrounding Tiberias remain quiet. Stars stretch wide above, countless and calm. The Milky Way lies across the sky like a river of light, endless and silent. The strange glow that some reported may have already vanished, or perhaps it lingers faintly in the corner of vision. In the cool breath of night, the land seems suspended between worlds, between peace and battle, between stillness and motion, between one chapter of history and the next. You take a slow breath, letting the calm of that night settle into you. Though the morning will bring movement and fire, this moment belongs to quiet anticipation. The fields rest, the men rest. Even the sky seems to rest. It is a reminder that before every great event, there is a pause, a heartbeat of silence, a calm as deep as the night itself. And in that calm, there is no trace of fear, only a quiet reassurance, subtle yet steady. It feels as if the very air around you pauses in harmony, as though time itself is holding its breath beside you. The silence does not press, but comforts, wrapping you in a stillness that feels protective. In this moment, you sense that even the unseen rhythms of the world wait with you, patient and gentle, like a companion who never rushes. You find yourself wandering across the hills near Tiberias, where the summer air presses close and heavy, carrying the faint dryness of dust and stone. Beneath your steps the grass feels brittle, raking softly like old paper, while the ground itself lies parched, its surface cracked and pale as faded parchment. The land stretches outward in wide, unhurried waves, gentle rises and dips that seem to fold into one another endlessly, each curve of earth holding the quiet memory of centuries long gone. The soil glimmers faintly in the sunlight, a muted ochre that suggests both endurance and fragility. There is little shade here, only a sparse tree or bush leaning into the heat, and above it all, the horizon extends without end, vast and patient. In this expanse, it feels as though time itself has slowed, the whole world caught in a single lingering breath, waiting without urgency. In this vast openness, Saladin gathers his forces. More than 30,000 men move slowly across the land, their banners shifting in the wind, their armor muted under the pale sun. From afar, their presence resembles a great tide, rolling steadily and without haste. The quiet discipline of their march carries more strength than noise ever could. You sense the patience of an army that trusts time itself to be an ally. The Crusader forces, weary and thirsty, find themselves encircled. Saladin's men understand the land, the weather, and the silence of waiting. Fires are lit among the dry thorn bushes, and the smoke drifts across the plain. The air grows thick, heavy with the scent of burning, a faint crackle weaving through the evening calm. The flames glow low and steady, not wild but deliberate, curling around the Crusaders like a slow embrace that tightens over hours. From a distance, you picture the scene not as chaos, but as patterns of light and shadow upon the earth. The torches shimmer, forming circles of orange against the darkening sky. The silhouettes of soldiers waver in the glow, not frantic, but strangely still, as though absorbed into the rhythm of the night. You hear the faint shuffle of feet, the soft clink of metal, the low murmur of men conserving their strength. Even the sounds of war here seem muted, wrapped in layers of waiting silence. Chronicles tell us that the fires continued through the night. Dry thorn bushes, once brittle, burned with surprising persistence. Some accounts say the flames never faltered, even when winds swept over the hills. It is said the fire glowed with an unnatural steadiness, as though guided by some unseen hand. Whether truth or embellishment, the image lingers, flames burning through the hours of darkness, weaving light into the fabric of the battlefield. The Crusaders, trapped within this circle of smoke and flame, grew weary. Their throats burned with thirst. The wells were far away, and the heat of the day had drained their bodies. Horses stamped the ground, restless, their breaths rising in hot clouds. Men closed their eyes, not to sleep, but to imagine water, cool and distant. And yet, despite the strain, the silence of the night was never broken. Only the steady whisper of fire filled the air, a lullaby of crackling wood and drifting ash. Above, the stars stretched wide, unaffected by the trials below. They shone with their steady light, countless and unmoved, like an eternal audience to fleeting human struggles. The Milky Way curved softly across the heavens, its faint glow mingling with the firelight rising from the fields. The night became a tapestry of sparks and stars, reflections of each other, patterns repeating in the sky and on the ground. You imagine walking through the edges of the battlefield, unseen, a gentle observer. The soldiers lie on the earth, armor laid beside them, their breathing slow, their strength fading with each passing hour. Some murmur prayers in low voices. Others remain silent, their eyes fixed on the distant horizon. The earth beneath them feels warm, touched by fire, yet solid, unchanging, holding them in its vast embrace. The fires continue their quiet work, flickering against the horizon and casting the hills in shifting layers of amber and deepening shadow. Each flame sways as though moved by a secret rhythm, painting the night with both warmth and unease. You stand within the glow and sense the strangeness of it all, the deep calm that lingers before a storm not yet revealed. It is as if the land itself holds steady, patient and unhurried, breathing in silence while waiting for dawn to unveil what the darkness now conceals. The stillness presses upon you, yet it does not overwhelm. Instead, it feels weighted but tender, like the pause between one heartbeat and the next, a moment stretched out across the earth. Within that pause lies a sense of inevitability, but also of comfort, as though the world knows more than it chooses to speak. In the faint hours before dawn, the smoke thins. Ash drifts lightly through the air, settling on the soil like gray snow. The camp of Saladin's men remains disciplined, their fires carefully tended, their movements deliberate. The Crusaders remain trapped, their circle tighter, their silence deeper. The world seems balanced on the edge of something inevitable, yet the night holds it in place, refusing to let time tip forward too quickly. From above, the landscape opens wide and unhurried, hills rising and falling like a slow breath. Fires shimmer faintly across the earth, their glow mingling with the patient rhythm of the stars. You let your breathing join this quiet harmony, steady and calm, as though sky and land share the same gentle heartbeat of night. Though the chronicles recall a clash of swords and cries of men, what remains strongest here is the quiet, the steady burning of thorn, bushes the unwavering patience of Saladin's host, and the strange glow of fire that some say the wind itself could not extinguish. It is this quiet you carry with you now, a reminder that even the fiercest moments of history are wrapped in stillness, in pauses, in silences that linger longer than the noise. The fields of Hattin become not only a place of battle, but a canvas of calm, a night where fire and stars shared the same sky, and where the land itself seemed to wait, breath held, for the dawn. The city of Jerusalem lies in stillness beneath a fading sky, its pale stones holding on to the final warmth of the evening sun. Along the walls, towers lift solemnly above the clustered rooftops, their shadows spilling slowly into the narrow streets below. A quiet has settled there, not empty but full of memory, as though every stone carries the imprint of countless footsteps, every wall the echo of whispered prayers. You imagine yourself moving softly along these paths, unhurried, your steps blending with the lingering silence. The air feels dense with time, as if the city itself is breathing slowly, holding its history within the folds of twilight. The scent of distant smoke and warm earth mingles faintly, grounding you in the present, even as the weight of centuries presses gently around you. Your breath begins to follow that rhythm, steady and calm, a part of Jerusalem's quiet endurance. News of Hattin has already spread. Word moves faster than horses, carried by merchants, pilgrims, and frightened messengers. The strongholds of Galilee and Samaria have fallen one by one, their banners lowered in quiet surrender. Castles that once promised protection now stand abandoned, their gates open to the wind. The people of Jerusalem know what this means. They wait, each day stretching like a drawn-out note, each night heavy with thoughts that cannot be spoken aloud. From the ramparts, guards keep watch over the horizon. Their armor glints faintly, but their stance is less that of defiance than of patience. They look outward as though the hills themselves will whisper when the moment comes. The streets below remain subdued. Market stalls that once bustled with sellers now stand half empty, their wares arranged with more care than usual, as though neatness could bring comfort. Children walk in small groups, their voices hushed, their games slower than before. In the churches, candles burn quietly. Their flames bend and straighten, swaying in a rhythm like gentle breathing. The light softens the stone arches, drawing curves of shadow that seem almost alive. Pilgrims kneel in silence, lips moving in prayers that mingle with the faint echo of footsteps. The air carries the smell of wax and incense, scents that linger like unspoken comfort. Even those who doubt still come, finding peace in the act of waiting together. Beyond the city walls, fields stretch outward, touched by evening light. They appear peaceful, their grasses golden, their soil dark and fertile. Yet everyone knows these fields will soon bear footprints and tents, perhaps engines of war. For now, they hold their quiet beauty, like an untouched canvas. Birds drift across the sky, their wings slow, unhurried, unconcerned by human affairs. A land continues its rhythm, waiting with patience greater than any army. As night arrives, the city seems to draw inward. Windows glow with faint lamplight, squares empty themselves of noise, and doorways close one after another. Yet within this silence, a mystery stirs. Chroniclers later recorded that on such nights, bells rang softly through the darkness. No hands touched the ropes, no priests climbed the towers, and yet the sound of bells drifted over the rooftops. Some said it was imagination born of fear. Others believed it was the voice of angels marking the passage of time. The bells did not clang harshly. They whispered. Their tones were low and round, carrying not alarm but calm. You can almost hear them now, notes rolling across the air, gentle as ripples on still water. The sound touches every ear, weaving through the narrow lanes, brushing against the closed shutters, finding its way even into the deepest corners of the city. People lie in bed, eyes open, listening, unsure whether to fear or to be comforted. The chronicles never agreed on how long the bells rang. Some said they continued until dawn, their steady tones blending with the first songs of birds. Others claimed they came in bursts, fading and returning, like waves against a shore. Whatever the truth, the memory of those sounds clings to the story of Jerusalem, like a quiet refrain that cannot be erased. Inside the city, time moves slowly. The night deepens, and each hour feels stretched thin. The moon drifts overhead, washing the stones in silver. Shadows from towers fall across the courtyards, stretching and shifting with the light. Somewhere, a scribe writes by candle, his ink flowing smoothly across parchment, each word a way of holding on to the moment before it passes. His hand moves slowly, but he knows his record may never be complete. In houses, families gather close, speaking in whispers. They share bread, they share silence, they share the comfort of presence. Children drift into sleep, their dreams gentler than the world outside. Adults remain awake longer, listening to the faint hum of the night, measuring each sound, each pause. The bells, real or imagined, remain part of this vigil, binding the people together in their waiting. And so Jerusalem rests, poised between what has already passed and what has yet to come. The city breathes slowly, suspended in a delicate balance, where every shadow seems to linger just a moment longer. The air carries the quiet anticipation of an approaching rain, a gentle hush that feels both comforting and uncertain. Yet within this stillness, there is a softness that reaches through time. You notice the way inhabitants cling to small comforts, the way they share tender glances, and the care with which they protect fleeting moments of peace. Even as history's currents draw ever closer, there is warmth in the simple acts of holding, walking, and breathing together. The city, though heavy with memory, hums quietly with life and enduring presence. The night stretches over Jerusalem, and the city seems to breathe as a single living body. Its walls, towers, and homes join with the hearts of those within, all pausing in a shared stillness. Every corner listens, every stone holds memory, and the hush of expectation fills the air. Bells toll softly, whether echoes of mystery or whispers of memory, reminding the city that even sound can carry calm alongside unease. In this quiet rhythm, Jerusalem readies itself not with clashing swords or shouted commands, but through patient waiting, steady and unhurried. Each moment passes like a slow wave, and the tide of history approaches gently, as if the city itself knows how to endure with grace and composure. The days drift gently into autumn, carrying a hushed expectation that settles softly over the land like a delicate cloak. Jerusalem, embraced by its pale stone walls, feels smaller, as if the world beyond has drawn closer, pressing quietly against its edges. From the northern and eastern ridges, lines of men emerge, first as scattered movements along the slopes, barely distinguishable from the shifting morning shadows, then gradually forming steady, deliberate patterns across the open fields. Carts creak under the weight of supplies, beasts of burden shift with low groans, and the unassembled frames of siege engines wait patiently. By the 20th of September, the encirclement is complete, and the city rests as an island of stone amid a calm, measured sea of human presence. Saladin's army settles around Jerusalem with remarkable patience and quiet discipline. More than 30,000 men, each carefully positioned, establish camps that seem to grow organically with the land. Banners ripple gently in the evening wind, their muted colors blending with the fading light. The hum of voices, the low crack of wood being fitted together, and the soft rhythm of tools at work mix with the distant tolling of church bells from within the city. These sounds are not of sudden assault, but of preparation, of careful encirclement, each echo carrying the weight of purpose without urgency. The people of Jerusalem listen from the walls, attentive to every note, aware that each hammer strike, each measured movement, brings the great engines closer to completion, and yet, for now, leaves them unscathed. As the days unfold, tall wooden towers gradually rise against the horizon, their silhouettes forming shapes both alien and strangely natural within the landscape. Siege towers and trebuchets grow piece by piece, their timber frames stretching upward, joining the skyline like great, slow-growing trees. Their purpose is heavy and inevitable, yet the city watches in silence. Each night, the structures seem taller, reaching for the sky with an almost hypnotic patience. The assault does not come. It is as if the city is being asked to endure the sound of inevitability itself, one measured step at a time, the rhythm of encroaching power marking the passage of hours and days with deliberate, unhurried grace. Inside the walls, life adjusts to the new cadence. Water is drawn more carefully, bread shared with attentive care. Fires are kept small, smoke curling delicately into the sky, controlled as though even the air must conserve its patience. Children still play, but their laughter has softened, their games slowed to a gentle murmur. Women sit under lamplight, weaving and spinning with hands steady and calm, their motions almost meditative. Priests lead prayers in long, unbroken cadences, voices echoing over stone and courtyard alike, the sound mingling with the distant hum of construction outside the walls. Though the siege has not yet touched the gates, it inhabits every thought, every gesture, and each small act carries an awareness of the forces gathering just beyond the horizon. Night deepens into a strange, layered quiet. From the ramparts, sentinels trace the glow of countless campfires, encircling the city like a necklace of fallen stars. The fires flicker steadily, their smoke trailing upward in slow, curling threads toward the pale night sky. People of Jerusalem, lying awake in their beds, sense the vast human presence just beyond the hills. Some find it terrifying. Others find a kind of quiet beauty in the sight, the living rhythm of flames. Countless individual lights forming a gentle, undulating border around the city. Alongside the firelight, however, came a mystery that lingered in the chronicles. Many witnesses wrote of a faint, shifting glow along the battlements, a spectral blue-green light that seemed to ripple across the stones. No torches burned there, no lamps glimmered, and yet the glow appeared. Some believed it to be divine protection, a silent guardian watching over the city. Others whispered it was an omen, a pale signal of what might yet come. The phenomenon was never explained, and yet it remained in memory, a quiet, enigmatic pulse alongside the physical presence of soldiers and engines. The assembly of war machines continued in deliberate, measured fashion. By the last days of September, trebuchets stood poised, arms stretching skyward like massive wooden limbs, ready to swing, ropes taut and creaking in the night breeze. From within the walls, the residents mistook the subtle groan of tensioned ropes and shifting beams for low, mournful voices, as if the city itself were speaking softly in anticipation. Still, no stones flew, no towers advanced. The waiting stretched on, each heartbeat lengthened into hours, each moment suspended like dew on the edge of a leaf, fragile yet unbroken. In this shared stillness, both sides breathed the same heavy air. Soldiers outside polished blades and helmets under lamplight, speaking in hushed tones, eating with care. Citizens inside polished icons, whispered prayers, and huddled together in the shadowed arches of stone churches. Across the line of walls and tents, two worlds mirrored each other, aware that the fragile quiet could not endure forever, yet finding a rhythm within it, a strange mutual patience. The final nights of September brought the full moon, bathing the city and surrounding encampments in a soft silver glow. From the walls, watchers observed the light ripple across canvas tents, helmets, and the long beams of siege towers. The blue-green shimmer on the battlements appeared brightest under the moon, faint as a whisper, soft as dew upon the stone. It lasted only moments before fading, retreating back into shadow. Some said it was the city exhaling, its ancient stones seeking relief from the tightening grip of encirclement, a quiet sigh in the face of inevitable change. Others imagined it as a gentle assurance, a reminder that even in the presence of gathering armies, life pulses steadily, and the rhythm of the city endures. In this suspended moment, Jerusalem rests, breathing in unison with its stones, its walls, and its people. Outside, preparation and patience unfold in quiet harmony, a measured dance of anticipation. Inside, rituals, work, and play continue with mindful calm. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of flame carries weight, yet also carries the gentle assurance of continuity. The city exists in balance, suspended between the past that has shaped it and the events that will soon press upon it, each moment a careful breath held in unison with the world beyond its walls. On the morning of October 2nd, 1187, Jerusalem seemed to breathe in a way unlike any before. Its gates, aged and weathered from centuries of prayers and battles, prepared not for the charge of steel or the crash of engines, but for a quiet, deliberate step toward surrender. The siege had tightened its circle over the city. The engines had loomed in patient silence, and now the moment had ripened. Jerusalem, revered center of faith and longing, would yield, but with a grace that seemed almost deliberate, almost contemplative. Low bells tolled across the city. Inside the churches, candles burned steadily in long rows, their wax dripping slowly like tears caught in time. Men and women gathered in dim interiors, voices rising in gentle hymns that felt less like pleas and more like farewells. Beyond the walls, soldiers stood silently, armor dulled by dust and long hours of waiting. No clash of swords echoed, no horns blared. The city itself seemed to hold its breath, as though the stones themselves understood the weight of the moment. At the gates, emissaries approached carrying neither weapons nor threats, but documents, agreements, and calm words of negotiation. Saladin, from his encampment, received them with the patient composure that had become his signature. The terms were clear. Each citizen could leave safely if a ransom was paid. Gold ensured freedom. Coins guaranteed life. Those who could not pay would not be harmed. Arrangements allowed the wealthy to assist the poor, neighbors to aid one another, and some to rely on the unseen compassion of strangers. Here was mercy, a stark contrast to the blood-soaked memory of when the city had fallen to Crusaders nearly a century before. Throughout the day, families gathered what they could carry: bundles of cloth, small chests of treasured items, the quiet implements of daily life, and prepared to depart from the city of their ancestors. Mothers tightened scarves around children's shoulders. Fathers pressed palms to the cool stone of doorways, as if saying farewell to silent companions. The streets filled with the hushed murmur of departure, the soft shuffle of sandals on dusted lanes, a gentle rhythm of people moving slowly yet deliberately. Saladin's men moved among them not as conquerors brandishing swords, but as guides. They directed the flow, counted coins, recorded names. The air carried the subtle music of daily life intensified, the clink of coins against scales, the soft rustle of parchment, the creak of carts laden with personal belongings. Despite the movement, the pace remained unhurried, deliberate, each step drawn out into something almost ceremonial, a quiet acknowledgement of what was passing. As night descended, something remarkable was said to have occurred. Chroniclers wrote of the sky, which, instead of darkening, burned with an unnatural brilliance. Stars shone with a silver-white intensity, washing the heavens in light, casting the city in a glow as bright as day. Some claimed it was heaven's hand marking the event, illuminating the surrender to etch it into eternity. Others whispered of omens, signs of divine observation, neither approving nor condemning, only witnessing. Soldiers paused on the walls, gazing upward, their faces softened by the luminous sky. Families halted mid-step, lifting children to see the heavens shining like morning. Despite the deep hour, the light lingered, transforming the familiar cityscape. Domes of churches glimmered, the arches of gates reflected pale silver, narrow streets shimmered in quiet brilliance. Every tear became a glint of light. Every step left a luminous trace upon the stone. Jerusalem, even in surrender, appeared enveloped in a cloak of quiet majesty, its walls holding both the weight of the past and the promise of endurance. As prayers concluded, coins were exchanged and torches were lowered. The city yielded not in humiliation, but in solemn dignity. The banners of the Crusaders were folded with care, symbols of new authority raised, yet no cheer erupted. Instead, a reverent hush enveloped the night, a tacit agreement that silence itself was the final word. The surrender unfolded slowly, methodically, with the rhythm of human lives continuing amid historic change. Families moved at their own pace, carrying what mattered most. Some turned back to glance one last time at walls and towers, at holy places bathed in the soft, persistent glow of the extraordinary night. Saladin's presence, calm and unassuming, infused the scene with a quiet humanity. He watched not as a conqueror gloating in triumph, but as a witness to the continuity of life and faith, mindful that mercy would outlast the fleeting thrill of victory. The sky remained radiant, stars shimmering overhead, illuminating Jerusalem's stones, its courtyards, its sacred spaces. The city passed from one hand to another, not with the roar of conquest, but with a hush that seemed to honor the weight of centuries. Each life moving through the gates carried fragments of history, memories, and hopes into the quiet night, leaving the city's stones to remember, silently, all that had transpired. In this luminous moment, Jerusalem was neither a prize nor a battlefield. It was a space of reverence, a testament to endurance, and a place where human lives, marked by faith, courage, and mercy, continued onward despite the tides of history. The surrender was complete, yet it was neither abrupt nor violent. It was an unhurried passage, a graceful acknowledgement of change that honored the city's enduring spirit. Even as the last travelers disappeared into the distance, the glow in the sky remained, casting its silver mantle over walls, rooftops, and towers. The city exhaled almost imperceptibly, as though feeling the relief of release, of transition. In this final quiet, Jerusalem transformed from a contested prize into a sanctuary of memory, its stones carrying forward both the sorrow of loss and the dignity of mercy. On that remarkable night, Jerusalem shifted from one hand to another, not through the roar of conquest, but through the soft dignity of endurance. Life within its walls continued, guided by memory, tempered by mercy, and bathed in the gentle, extraordinary glow of a night that would linger in the city's stones, a quiet testament to resilience and the enduring spirit of its people. Far from the walls of Jerusalem, across seas and mountains, the news of its surrender spread slowly, like ripples on a quiet pond. Carried by ship, couriers, and messengers, whispered in monasteries, and proclaimed from pulpits, the tidings traveled across the Christian world. When they reached Europe, they fell with the weight of thunder upon ears already weary of wars and fragile peace. A holy city, jewel of faith, was no longer in Christian hands. Its loss struck at the heart of Christendom, awakening fear, grief, and an urgent sense of duty that reached across borders and social classes. In Rome, the news struck with unbearable force. Pope Urban III, an aging shepherd of the Church, is said to have received the message with trembling hands. Chroniclers describe his grief as overwhelming, and within days of hearing the news, his heart gave way. Some wrote that sorrow killed him outright, a life ending under the shadow of a city lost. The papal court fell into mourning, yet the machinery of faith and politics pressed forward almost immediately. Plans were already being shaped for what would become the Third Crusade, a campaign born from despair, urgency, and the dream of reclaiming Jerusalem. Europe could not linger in sorrow. The call to arms was rising even as grief lingered. Across the monasteries of France and the marketplaces of England, the story spread with fevered intensity. Preachers raised their voices in calls to arms, invoking duty, faith, and divine obligation. Villagers whispered of the end of days, wondering what punishment or trial might await them. Kings, too, felt history's pull. Richard of England, soon to be known as the Lionheart, prepared to take the cross. Frederick Barbarossa, Holy Roman Emperor, and already a figure of legend, began mustering his strength. Philip of France, both rival and occasional ally to his fellow monarchs, turned his gaze eastward. What had once seemed a distant conflict now struck like a wound at the heart of Christendom, demanding response and redemption. Yet as messengers rode and parchments passed hand to hand, not all words reached their intended audience. Some records, fragile and fragmentary, speak of letters written in desperation from the east, calling for aid and warning of Jerusalem's impending fall. Many of these letters vanished, some lost at sea, others misplaced within the labyrinthine corridors of monasteries, or hidden by those fearing the panic their contents might cause. Historians still debate whether these letters ever truly existed. Their absence only deepens the mystery, as if the story of Jerusalem is not solely about walls and battles, but also about voices lost to time, leaving only echoes for imagination and conjecture. In the wake of Jerusalem's fall, Europe entered a period of solemn preparation. Bells tolled as summonses to action, while nobles stitched the cross in red upon their garments, pledging faith and loyalty. Devout children marched around chapels, singing hymns that spiraled skyward like smoke. Elders recalled past cycles of conflict, and even merchants committed funds, acknowledging that heavenly promise outweighed earthly gain. Across all classes, the city's loss ignited both spiritual fervor and tangible, practical readiness for what lay ahead. Amid this surge of devotion, the story of Saladin spread. To some, he was a fearsome enemy, almost a force of nature. To others, a man of honor whose mercy during the city's surrender inspired awe. Songs carried his name from taverns to monasteries, shaping an image of a leader who seemed both conqueror and gentleman. The West found itself haunted not only by Jerusalem's fall, but by the presence of a man whose strategy, strength, and restraint fascinated as much as they terrified. As winter blanketed Europe, castles glowed with torchlight, and meticulous preparations unfolded. Ships were counted, blacksmiths labored to forge weapons, and scribes compiled endless lists of provisions. Yet beneath the clamor of preparation, a quieter undercurrent persisted. Some questioned whether the land could sustain another massive march eastward. Others prayed not for victory, but for peace, for a life not governed by constant summons to battle. Still, the call of Jerusalem proved irresistible. The Holy Land had become more than a geographic location. It had become a symbol. And symbols, once shaken, demand response. The shadow of Pope Urban's death lingered over Europe, a reminder of human frailty and the urgency of divine mission. His successor inherited sorrow, responsibility, and the burden of spurring Christendom to action. Thus, the Third Crusade began to take shape not in sudden eruption, but in slow, deliberate whispers, born of grief, mystery, and the unquenchable yearning to reclaim what had been lost. From royal halls to peasant cottages, the echoes of Jerusalem resonated like measured bells across continents. These reverberations inspired a fragile yet steadfast resolve to march eastward, guided by faith and memory. Europe transformed into a stage of preparation castles, chapels, and villages, readying men, ships, and resources. Beneath sermons and the noise of arms, a quiet awareness endured. Jerusalem was more than loss. It was memory, symbol, and a call to action. Even as letters were lost or delivered, their echoes influenced decision-making, shaping the minds and hearts of rulers, knights, and commoners alike. The uncertainty surrounding these messages mirrors a broader truth. History is shaped as much by absence and silence as by presence and record. The Third Crusade, forged from grief, devotion, and the enduring symbol of Jerusalem, carried the hopes, fears, and dreams of a continent toward a distant land where faith, memory, and history converged. The fall of Jerusalem resonated far beyond its walls. It reminded Europe that cities are never isolated, that loss travels like wind across mountains and seas, and that symbols, once shaken, compel action. Despair gave rise to resolve, inspiring armies, prayer, and preparation, leaving an indelible mark on history. The echoes of Jerusalem's surrender, of Pope Urban's death, and of lost or imagined letters would guide Crusaders' footsteps and shape the prayers of millions, tracing the path back to the Holy Land, a place where human ambition, devotion, and the weight of history intertwined, leaving an enduring impression on Europe and Christendom alike. The roads of the Middle East in the 12th century stretched endlessly across plains and deserts, forming ribbons that connected distant cities. Walking along them in imagination, the air is warm and the earth firm beneath your feet, marked by countless travelers who passed before you. Pilgrims, merchants, scholars, and wanderers traversed these paths, their journeys weaving a living thread from Damascus to Cairo to Jerusalem. Each road carried not only people, but stories, beliefs, and small treasures tucked away in leather satchels. Every step was a passage through both space and time, a subtle layering of lives intersecting briefly before moving on. The journey south from Damascus toward Jerusalem was long and deliberate, dotted with caravanserais that offered rest and shelter. Stone walls cast welcome shade, while wells provided cool water for both man and beast. As night fell, the air softened, carrying murmured prayers, the crunch of bread, and the hiss of tea poured from bronze kettles. Each resting spot became a temporary world where strangers might meet, share a meal or story, and part again at dawn. Travel in these days demanded patience. Time stretched wide and slow, as if the horizon itself expanded to accommodate the traveler's pace. Caravans from Cairo merged into this rhythm, filling the air with the scent of exotic spices. Cinnamon, cloves, and saffron mingled with the earthy smells of leather and wool. Traders cloaked in dark fabrics carried vibrant silks, glowing even in the dimming light, promising tales of distant lands. Pilgrims walked barefoot beside them, each step a prayer, each breath a meditation. The journey itself was sacred, and the dust rising from the path became a kind of incense, an offering to the heavens. Along the road, milestones were carved into stone, marking distances for weary eyes. Yet travelers measured progress less by miles and more by encounters. The shepherd sharing dates from his pouch, a laughing child watching a caravan pass, a quiet scholar reciting a verse by firelight. These simple interactions were the true markers of the journey, small gifts that gave each mile life and texture. Legends traveled with the people, woven into daily routine. One story told of a lone camel wandering the desert without a rider or herd, bearing a small bronze bell around its neck. Its faint chime echoed across the dunes, a tone both mournful and comforting. Some believed the bell belonged to a caravan lost to a sandstorm. Others thought it guided travelers who had strayed from the path. Whatever the truth, the image of the solitary camel became part of the fabric of these roads, its song a subtle, haunting presence. Even now, one can imagine the bell ringing faintly, carried by the wind as a lullaby across the desert. The road, though vital, was not without danger. Bandits lurked at the edges, yet the sheer size of caravans often provided protection. Dust storms swept across the plains, forcing travelers to seek refuge in rocky outcrops or under tent wings. Amid these challenges, resilience emerged. The road taught patience, humility, and a quiet trust in the rhythm of the journey. It demanded that travelers adapt, endure, and learn the art of coexistence with others moving along the same path. Above, the vast sky stretched unbroken, clouds drifting slowly, and stars returning faithfully each night. Pilgrims slept beneath its canopy, faces turned upward, comforted by constancy. Traders rested beside their goods, the flicker of lantern light casting long shadows across sacks of pepper and silk. Laughter, soft and weary, rose as companions shared tales before drifting into silence. These sounds, mingled with the crackle of fire and the rustle of fabric, formed a gentle music, soothing even the most exhausted travelers. The road became more than a route. It was a shared space where differences of language, culture, and creed blurred against the practical needs of travel. One person offered bread, another water, a third shade beneath a tent. Each act was small, but together they created a spirit of community, a network of mutual care and reliance. By the time caravans neared Jerusalem's gates, travelers were transformed by the journey itself, carrying not only goods and prayers, but memories of kindness and shared humanity. As you imagine standing along this path, watching the slow procession of animals and people stretching across the horizon, the timelessness of the road becomes clear. The dust, the bells, the whispered prayers, the twilight laughter all weave together, like threads in a fabric that never unravels. These moments, fleeting yet eternal, create a tapestry of human experience. And somewhere, perhaps, the lone camel still walks. Its bronze bell rings faintly across the sand, a reminder that even in solitude, the road carries sound, memory, and meaning forward into the quiet of history. Each traveler contributes to the enduring rhythm of life along these ancient routes, their stories echoing across centuries. The road itself is alive, its spirit shaped by every step, every gesture, every small act of kindness, forming a continuum that bridges generations, cultures, and distant lands. Even as centuries passed and empires rose and fell, these roads remained steadfast witnesses. They carried the weight of human hope, devotion, and ambition, connecting distant lands and lives. The journeys along them shaped not only the physical terrain, but also the spiritual and cultural fabric of the Middle East, leaving echoes that endure in memory. In the 12th century, these paths were more than trade routes or pilgrimage trails. They were vessels of human experience, repositories of shared history, and stages for countless stories. Every footprint, conversation, and exchanged gift became part of a living chronicle, carried forward by travelers and descendants alike. The sound of the bronze bell, the rhythm of footsteps on the earth, and the mingled scents of spices and leather all attest to the road's enduring presence. Even in silence, it speaks of connection, resilience, and the ceaseless flow of life. To walk these roads in imagination is to glimpse a world in motion, a web of lives bound together by necessity, faith, and the subtle music of human existence, moving steadily toward Jerusalem, where every step carries meaning, devotion, and memory forward through the ages. You wander through the winding streets of Damascus, long revered as a jewel of the East. Evening cools the day's lingering heat, carrying faint scents of spices and distant blossoms. Lanterns sway gently at doorways, casting flickering shadows across stone and wooden walls, illuminating narrow alleys. The city sounds footsteps, distant voices, the occasional clip-clop of hooves merge into a soft, continuous hum. Yet above all, the gentle murmur of water captures your attention, guiding you toward the famed gardens. Here, canals and orchards transform the arid landscape into serene green sanctuaries, where the rhythm of flowing water and rustling leaves invites quiet reflection, offering a peaceful escape from the city's bustling streets. Following the gentle sound, you find yourself approaching Damascus's famed gardens, an oasis where the 12th century inhabitants transformed dry, arid land into lush, living sanctuaries. Irrigation channels, carefully carved from stone, carry the cool, flowing waters from the Barada River through orchards, courtyards, and groves of fruit trees. The gardens breathe life into the city, offering shade, food, and tranquility to travelers, scholars, and residents alike. Here, the dust of the streets, the noise of bustling markets, and the weight of history seem to vanish. In this serene refuge, the rhythmic lapping of water and the gentle rustle of leaves create a timeless melody, inviting reflection and quiet contemplation. A sanctuary of calm in a city rich with life and legacy. The gardens stretch outward like woven tapestries of green. Irrigation channels carry water from the Barada River into fields and courtyards, slipping silently past your feet, reflecting starlight. Trees rise on either side, their branches meeting overhead to form living ceilings. Citrus blossoms scent the air, lingering with each breath. Here, stillness speaks louder than the market's clamor or the city's bustle. The gardens are more than decoration. They are lifelines, offering shade, food, and cool relief. Travelers once praised Damascus as paradise on earth, admiring groves of apricots, figs, and pomegranates. You reach for a fruit, warm from the sun, bursting with summer's flavor. Water wheels turn slowly in the distance, lifting water into higher channels, their creeks blending with the splash of water. the rustle of leaves, and night birds' calls into a gentle, natural music. Continuing your walk, you arrive at a modest pavilion, once a retreat for scholars with scrolls and ink at hand. Beneath the soft glow of candlelight, they copied verses, translated precious texts, and exchanged reflections in hushed voices. Shadows from the flames danced lightly across worn manuscripts, while the garden beyond seemed to lean closer, roses and mint releasing their fragrance into the night. Here, learning flourished beside nature, and wisdom itself seemed to carry the scent of blossoms. The pavilion grew into more than a place of work. It became a sanctuary of thought and meditation, where travelers and residents lingered, drawn by the tranquil rhythm of study. In this serene corner, Damascus revealed itself as a city where the earthly touched the eternal, offering calm spaces for reflection and quiet growth of spirit. Whispers tell of something stranger, a flower hidden in these gardens that blooms only at night. Its petals open beneath silver moonlight, releasing a fragrance delicate beyond any known perfume. By dawn, it vanishes completely, leaving no trace, not a stem, not a leaf. Some claim it is a gift from angels, a reminder that beauty can exist in silence, visible only to those wandering at the right hour. Others suspect it is a trick of the imagination, the dream of a weary gardener. Yet the tale persists, shared like a secret belonging to the night. You imagine searching for this flower, moving slowly to preserve the garden's quiet. Moonlight guides your steps past fig trees and grape-laden vines. Shadows hold promise, and each breeze carries a hint of something otherworldly. Though the flower remains unseen, the pursuit itself transforms your journey. The mystery lightens the air, suggesting unseen wonders linger just beyond reach. Perhaps the true gift is not the flower itself, but the hope and curiosity it inspires. Nearby, families sit on woven mats, sipping sweet drinks and enjoying the evening. Children chase fireflies, their laughter rising above the murmuring water. Musicians pluck strings, melodies rippling like the canals themselves. Every sound blends into the garden's rhythm, soft and measured, demanding gentle voices in harmony with its pulse. This world is not one of armies or politics, but of slow breaths, warm bread, and shared presence. A quiet, steady community dot as hours pass. The gardens grow deeper into silence. Petals drift across water, their reflections floating like lanterns. The moon leans lower, silvering leaves and grass. You sit by a canal, dipping your fingers into its cool stream, feeling centuries slide away. These gardens once soothed scholars, sultans, pilgrims, and wanderers. Now they soothe you. Each ripple, each rustle, each flicker carries the weight of memory and the calm of centuries dot in this quiet. It becomes clear that a garden mirrors history itself. It thrives with care, yet surprises with sudden blooms, demanding patience like a well-told story. Its beauty emerges most vividly when the world grows still. Perhaps, somewhere unseen, the legendary night-blooming flower stirs. Its subtle fragrance, a reminder that mystery persists even when hidden. As you wander these gardens, you carry a sense of continuity, the echoes of human devotion, learning, and everyday life interwoven into Damascus's green tapestry. Each step connects past and present, revealing how care, curiosity, and quiet observation preserve memory, wonder, and the delicate rhythm of existence across generations dot through the night. The layered history of Damascus unfolds around you. Lanterns sway gently, water glimmers, and the air vibrates with life and quiet reflection. Scholars, merchants, pilgrims, and families coexist, contributing to a rhythm that has endured for generations. The gardens and flowing canals are living stories, weaving memory, culture, and the sacred into daily life. As you depart, you carry lessons of patience, the allure of mystery, and the lasting echo of a city that gracefully bridges the earthly and the eternal. where every step connects the present to centuries of devotion, learning, and simple human presence. You step away from the fragrant gardens of Damascus, their green canopies and flowing canals receding behind you, leaving their lingering perfume in your memory. Ahead lies a quieter, more solemn space, the city's libraries, where the flicker of candlelight guards knowledge more precious than gold. Evening settles fully, and through narrow arched windows, the last daylight fades into shadows. Inside, the only sounds are the soft scratch of quills on parchment and the faint rustle of pages turning. Shelves line the chambers, carved from dark, polished wood, heavy with scrolls and bound volumes. Leather, parchment, and papyrus are stacked carefully, though centuries have left cracks, fading, and the mellow scent of age. This is no mere storage room. It is a sanctuary, a place where memory breathes and civilization speak through written words. Here, human thought, labor, and devotion converge in silence, preserved across generations. Muslim scholars traveled from distant lands to gather manuscripts, creating a collection that spanned the known world. Greek philosophy, Persian poetry, Indian mathematics, all found their place under these roofs. Plato, Aristotle, and Galen were translated into Arabic, debated, annotated, and given new life by minds as sharp as their predecessors. Knowledge that might have vanished was secured, enduring for centuries beyond the imagining of its original authors. You imagine a scholar bent over a desk, candlelight trembling as he dips a reed pen into ink. Each stroke is deliberate, curving with care and precision. His robes brush the floor as he leans close, murmuring words aloud, perhaps copying Persian verses, Greek medical texts, or philosophical treatises. Hours pass unnoticed in this rhythm of light and ink, the outside world fading as the night deepens into silenced out at times. The libraries themselves seemed enchanted. Chroniclers tell of books that vanished inexplicably, one evening resting on a shelf and gone by dawn. Scribes searched in vain, only to find the same texts years later, untouched and undiminished. Some believed secret orders of scholars hid these works, guarding their knowledge until the right moment. Others said the books themselves resisted neglect, slipping into shadow until curiosity brought them back to light. You picture one such mysterious volume now. Its cover glimmers faintly in candlelight, letters pressed into the leather with gold that has not dulled. Reaching for it, you feel as though it has been waiting for you. Opening it, the pages pulse with meaning, the ink darker than night. Perhaps it is a text of lost philosophy, or a map of forgotten lands, or merely the product of imagination. But the story remains, knowledge preserved, secrets intact. The libraries of Damascus were more than collections of text. They were crossroads of ideas. Scholars debated beneath the arches, their voices echoing through chambers as medicine. Astronomy, geometry, and theology intertwined. Arguments flowed from Aristotle to Avicenna, Euclid to Al-Khwarizmi, rising and falling like the tides of an unseen sea. Each discussion sparked insight, sending light outward into the wider world. Deeper within, the play of candlelight creates its own magic. Flames reflect in polished brass holders, shadows stretching and shrinking across shelves, turning books into living presences. The library seems alive, each volume waiting its moment to speak. If you listen closely, you may hear faint whispers, echoes of old tongues, conversations folded into the air, belonging to scholars long gone. Some nights, when storms gathered outside and rain hammered the rooftops, the library's intimacy intensified. Scholars clustered, huddled over manuscripts, the room infused with the scent of wet earth, brought in on sandals, mingled with the smoke of lamps. Outside, thunder rolled, but inside, only the rhythm of pen on parchment mattered. Knowledge was shielded here, safe from both the ravages of weather and the passage of time. Fragility, however, always lingered. Fires, wars, and neglect would one day sweep away much of what these minds had preserved. Yet in this moment, standing in the candlelit hush, you are not reminded of loss. You witness endurance, the miracle that words penned centuries ago still survive, carried across time by the devotion of countless hands. Each shelf, each scroll, speaks of labor, curiosity, and the human desire to preserve understanding as the night deepens. The last candle gutters, its flame shrinking into darkness. Silence returns to the library, shelves waiting patiently, shadows holding their mysteries. Perhaps the vanished books linger nearby, hidden just beyond reach, their secrets preserved in patient anticipation. Stepping back into the night, you carry with you the impression of endless rows of manuscripts, of quiet labor, and of stories that refuse to die. The libraries of Damascus are more than buildings. They are living monuments to the endurance of human knowledge. Within their walls, light and shadow, flame and ink converge to safeguard centuries of thought. Outside, the city sleeps beneath a quiet sky, yet inside, scholarship persists, softly whispering its lessons through time. Each candlelit corner and every carefully stacked manuscript embodies generations of curiosity, diligence, and reflection, preserving the wisdom of countless minds. These spaces remain sanctuaries where the past speaks to the present. You leave the library with the weight of history pressing gently upon you. Knowledge once fragile, preserved against fire, neglect, and decay, remains alive in these spaces. The air carries the faint scent of wax and ink, the subtle echo of quills on parchment. As you step into the night, you carry with you the sense of enduring human endeavor, the quiet triumph of thought against time, and the reminder that while empires rise and fall, the work of minds dedicated to understanding and preserving persists, like a heartbeat in the shadows. Damascus's libraries are both refuge and beacon, a place where ideas intersect, endure, and inspire. The walls seem to breathe with the lives of scholars who walked here before, their devotion imprinted on every volume. As the candlelight fades, the knowledge within these walls does not disappear. It waits patiently for the next hand, the next mind, to continue the conversation across generations. Here, in the quiet of these storied rooms, the past and the present converge, and the city's legacy of wisdom lives on, luminous and unbroken. The sun sinks toward the horizon, spilling amber and rose across the vast desert sky. The searing heat of the day softens into a gentle, cooling breeze that stirs the sands and brushes against the faces of travelers. Camels stretch their long shadows across the dunes, their forms painted in dark, graceful strokes as if by an invisible artist tracing the landscape. At this hour, the caravans pause, forming protective circles that offer safety and warmth, a fragile sense of community in the endless expanse of desert. The chatter of footsteps fades into silence, replaced by the soft rustle of canvas tents unfolding and the gentle chime of bells swinging from camel necks. Smoke curls lazily from small cooking fires, carrying the faint, spicy scent of simmering food into the cooling air. Traders and pilgrims settle near the glow of embers, sharing quiet words and small comforts, while children stretch and play in the sand's soft shadow. The desert itself seems to exhale, embracing the caravan in its vast stillness. Even as the sky deepens into twilight, a sense of calm and unhurried rhythm pervades the scene, where movement slows, sounds soften, and the night begins to wrap the travelers in its tranquil embrace. The caravan tonight is large, made up of traders from distant lands. Their wagons carry silks dyed in shades of sapphire and emerald, spices that fill the air with sweet and sharp aromas, and precious stones glimmering faintly, even in the dusk. These treasures, drawn from the East India, Persia, and beyond, are bound for the markets of Damascus and Jerusalem. Yet for now, they rest, scattered along the desert's edge like tiny islands of humanity in a vast sea of silence. Fires are lit, small and carefully tended. Their light dances against the sides of tents, casting figures that sway gently with the breeze. Merchants sit cross-legged, brewing tea in brass kettles, pouring the liquid into small cups that glow against the fading light. Children laugh softly, their voices carried by the wind, while camels kneel with sighs, folding themselves into the earth. There is no rush, only the unhurried rhythm of life on the road. Where dusk is a moment for stillness. In this atmosphere, stories begin to unfold. Traders share tales of cities across the desert, of distant courts and marketplaces where gold changes hands as quickly as words. They speak of seas crossed by wooden ships, sails filled with winds that carried cinnamon, nutmeg, and pepper. Others recall mountain passes where snow glistened like silver, or valleys where the air was sweet with blossoms. Each story becomes a kind of spice itself, added to the evening air, flavoring it with wonder and calm. And then there are the mysteries whispered around the fires. Chroniclers have noted that, in some nights, travelers reported seeing a red star appear low in the sky. Unlike others, it did not remain fixed, but seemed to glide gently, as if leading the caravan. Some followed it instinctively, convinced it would guide them through stretches of desert or paths blurred into the shifting sands. Others doubted, fearing it was an omen of war or misfortune. Yet time and again the red star returned, a faint companion on the road, reminding wanderers that the heavens too held secrets. You pause in thought, gazing upward. Tonight the sky unfurls slowly, first a pale lavender, then deepening into velvet blue. The first stars pierce the veil, tiny sparks scattered like seeds across an endless field. Perhaps one of them is the red star, waiting to rise, its color dimmed for now, but destined to glow again. The quiet certainty of the heavens feels comforting here, a reminder that all roads, whether through desert or forest, unfold beneath the same sky. Closer to the fires, the evening continues with gentle rhythm. A man plucks at a stringed instrument, its notes drifting outwards, weaving into the air like threads of silver. The melody is simple, repeating, designed not to rouse, but to soothe. Some hum along, others close their eyes, letting the song become part of the night itself. A woman grinds spices, the mortar releasing scents of cardamom and clove, their sharpness softened by the smoky perfume of burning wood. Each act is ordinary, yet beneath the starlight, it feels eternal. Camels shift, bells on their necks chiming faintly as they settle. The soft crunch of hooves pressing into sand becomes slower, then still. Around the fire, silhouettes lean back against saddles or rolls of cloth, watching the embers fade to red. The caravan seems like a small constellation upon the earth, fires as its stars, its people as figures joined by invisible lines of kinship and purpose. In the distance, the desert breathes. Wind carries whispers across dunes, lifting grains of sand that shimmer faintly before vanishing into darkness. The cool air brushes against skin like a blessing, carrying with it both silence and song. The desert holds its mysteries well, but tonight it seems tender, enfolding the caravan in its vast embrace. As night settles over the desert, the caravan drifts into quietude. Conversations taper into soft murmurs, laughter fades, and the only sound left is the gentle crackle of the campfires, their orange glow flickering across the sand and tents. Camels huddle close, their bells chiming faintly in the stillness, marking the passage of time in subtle rhythm. Overhead, the constellations move slowly across the velvet sky, eternal and patient, casting pale light on the sleeping travelers below. Somewhere among these stars, a solitary red star glows dimly, its presence both mysterious and comforting, as if silently observing the caravan's journey. Whether a sign of fate, a celestial guide, or simply a tale whispered by wanderers, it endures as part of the desert's quiet magic, a steadfast companion, witnessing each step, each pause, and each dream along the endless shifting sands. linking night and journey in a shared, silent rhythm. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine resting among them. The earth beneath firm and cool, the sky overhead infinite and calm. The caravan sleeps, the fires shrink to embers, and the night carries them all gently forward, as though cradling their dreams in its vast silence. The night settles gently over Jerusalem, a hush stretching across the stone streets and walls. The air carries the faint fragrance of olive trees, mingled with the distant echo of steps fading into quiet. Above, the moon lifts itself into the sky, pale and steady, its glow spilling like silver across domes, minarets, and courtyards. The city seems to exhale in unison, its weary history momentarily soothed beneath this veil of light. You find yourself walking softly through the winding lanes. Stones cool beneath your feet. The houses lean close to one another, their walls catching the moonlight in shifting patterns. Ahead, the great structure rises, the Masjid al-Aqsa, vast and serene, its presence calm yet immense. After Saladin reclaimed Jerusalem, this mosque became more than a place of worship. It became a center of learning, prayer, and quiet reflection, a symbol of spiritual renewal in a city long scarred by conflict. The mosque rests at the southern edge of the noble sanctuary, its walls solid and measured, its arches lifting gently upward as though in a gesture of offering. In the silence of night, you see how the stones carry both strength and softness. Their pale surfaces brushed with moonlight, it refuses to fade. The courtyard stretches wide, empty of the crowds of day, leaving only the whisper of wind moving through the colonnades. Each column stands like a guardian, steady and dignified, watching over centuries of prayers whispered beneath these arches. Legends say that on certain nights, the moon leans closer. Its light rests on the dome, sliding down its curves and lingering until dawn. Unlike ordinary light, it does not dim or scatter, but glows steadily as though the heavens themselves had chosen this place as a lantern upon earth. Some travelers who passed through Jerusalem swore they had seen it with their own eyes. A soft beam, unmoving, clinging to the golden roof long after other shadows shifted. Whether truth or story, the legend endures, carried by the city's breath from generation to generation. You pause, gazing at the dome. Tonight, it seems as though the moon truly does linger there, its reflection resting gently like a hand upon the roof. The glow appears almost liquid, pouring downward in slow streams that bathe the walls, making them shimmer faintly. In this light, the mosque does not seem heavy or immovable. Instead, it appears to float, a vessel of calm suspended between heaven and earth. The silence surrounding it deepens, like water in a still pool dot inside. The vast hall is cool and hushed. The scent of old wood mingles with the faint trace of incense. Carpets stretch across the floor in shades of crimson and gold, their patterns soft underfoot. Shafts of moonlight slip through narrow windows, falling in pale rectangles that scatter across the hall. The emptiness feels alive here, not with noise, but with memory. Each corner holds the weight of countless voices, soft prayers rising into the night and folding back into silence. Saladin himself once prayed within these walls. Chroniclers record that he approached not with the triumph of a conqueror, but with the humility of a servant. He is said to have bowed low, giving thanks not for victory, but for the chance to restore a holy place. Those who witnessed the moment described it as quiet, even playing, yet filled with an intensity that seemed to linger long after he left. His presence remains in memory, like a shadow traced into the stones. Outside, the city sleeps. Minarets reach upward, their slender forms pointing into the sky, their bases glowing with the moon's steady touch. In later centuries, the call to prayer would rise from these towers, weaving sound into the dawn. But now they stand silent, as though listening. The domes nearby gleam faintly, their curves softened by silver light. You might imagine the buildings themselves breathing, drawing in moonlight and exhaling calm. A gentle wind stirs, carrying the faint rustle of leaves from the courtyards. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls once, then falls silent again. The sound blends with the stillness rather than breaking it, like a single note in an endless song. Time here feels slowed, stretched into a long pause where nothing demands, nothing interrupts. It is the kind of quiet that invites rest, the kind that allows thoughts to drift and settle as though floating on water. You stand beneath the expansive night sky, gazing at the mosque bathed in silver moonlight. Its form is both earthly and divine, a testament to human hands shaping stone into vessels of something greater. Each arch and dome reflects a quiet grandeur, bridging the world of mortals and the infinite above. The legend of the moon's glow may be uncertain, yet its effect is undeniable, filling the heart with calm and reverence. Whether myth or miracle, the sight draws you into stillness, a gentle pause in time where the beauty of creation, both natural and crafted, settles over the soul, leaving only awe, quiet reflection, and the steady rhythm of night. As the night deepens, Damascus seems to fold into itself, streets emptying and rooftops quiet under a sky strewn with stars. The city's heartbeat slows, leaving only the soft whisper of the wind across stone and tile. In the heart of this stillness, the mosque stands luminous, its dome catching the faint glow of moonlight, reflecting it like a quiet sentinel. Courtyards lie in gentle shadow, the arches and columns casting long, elegant silhouettes that merge with the calm of the night. The fountains murmur softly, their water tracing arcs that catch the moon's pale light, creating ripples of silver across the stone. You pause at the edge of a courtyard, feeling the coolness of the marble beneath your fingers, and inhale the scent of the night air, mingling faintly with the fragrance of nearby gardens. Here, the world contracts to this single sacred space. Thoughts settle like dust on smooth surfaces, and every step is measured, slow, and deliberate. In this hush, the mosque becomes more than architecture. It becomes rhythm itself, calm, enduring, infinite, a pulse that matches the steady, patient breath of the sleeping city around it. The season turns gently, and autumn arrives over the hills of the Holy Land with a softened breath. The air grows cooler, touched by breezes that carry the faint scent of cedar and olive groves. Leaves fall sparingly, golden and rust-colored, scattering across narrow paths that lead toward Jerusalem. The light of the sun lingers longer in the morning haze, softened by mist, before retreating into evenings where the air is crisp and serene. You walk slowly along these roads, noticing how the sky wears a deeper shade of blue, as though the heavens themselves are leaning closer to earth. Along the paths, you begin to see the quiet flow of pilgrims. They come in steady rhythms, not hurried, not forced, but carried forward by devotion. Some walk with staffs polished by long journeys, while others carry small bundles on their backs, wrapped in cloth that has seen many miles. You hear the soft crunch of sandals on dirt, the faint creak of leather, and the low murmur of prayers whispered between breaths. It is a procession, not of armies, but of faith, stretching across the landscape like threads weaving together. After Saladin's recapture of Jerusalem, something unusual was permitted. Despite the turmoil of war, Christian pilgrims were allowed to return to the holy city freely. This decision, grounded in Saladin's sense of justice and respect, brought back to Jerusalem not only Muslims, but also Christians who had long feared exclusion. Slowly, carefully, the flow of pilgrims resumed, each step pressing into the earth a mark of continuity. The stones of the city welcomed back footsteps that had been absent, weaving together histories that had diverged. The paths carry pilgrims from many directions. From Damascus, they bring stories of gardens and markets, while from Cairo, they bring tales of wide rivers and bustling ports. Some arrive from distant Europe, their journeys long and wearisome, yet softened by the hope of reaching this sacred place. You notice how the groups differ robes in varied colors, accents in different tones, yet when they speak their prayers, the rhythm feels the same. Faith levels every voice, as though all are singing from a single, unseen page. Autumn lends a special stillness to their progress. The wind is light, carrying with it the fragrance of wood smoke from small fires lit by travelers resting at dusk. You see a group pause beneath a grove of trees, where smoke curls upward like threads of silk, dissolving into the night. They warm their hands, share bread, and speak in soft voices that do not disturb the calm. The embers glow faintly, reflecting in their eyes, before being covered with soil when they move on. Nothing is wasted. Nothing lingers louder than the season itself. As the nights deepen, another kind of whisper fills the air. Some pilgrims have told of hearing distant singing carried by the wind. Not voices of companions nearby, nor chants of prayer, but something lighter, loftier, almost hidden. They describe it as a chorus, woven of tones too perfect to belong to earth. It drifts in and out, never near, never clear, as though the hills themselves breathe in harmony. No one can prove such sounds, yet once the story is told, others begin to listen more closely, half hoping to catch a note. You pause along the path, standing still, and allow the breeze to wash over your ears. For a moment, the air itself seems to hum faintly, like the vibration of a string far away. Perhaps it is only wind moving through branches, or perhaps it is something else, something older. The mystery clings to the season, offering wonder without demanding explanation. It is the kind of detail that lingers in memory, like the scent of smoke long after the fire has died. The city of Jerusalem lies ahead, its towers and domes softened by autumn haze. The gates, once echoing with the cries of soldiers, now open to quieter rhythms. Pilgrims enter humbly, some kneeling as they touch the stones, others lifting their eyes to the sky in silent gratitude. The air inside the city feels thick with memory, yet also lightened by new steps pressing forward. You notice how each person's face carries both weariness and relief, lines softened by the thought that they have reached the heart of their journey. At night, incense drifts softly through certain streets, its smoke curling upward like gentle rivers of fragrance. The smell is sweet, earthy, lingering. Combined with the crisp autumn air, it creates an atmosphere that seems both grounded and ethereal. You walk beneath arches, through small courtyards, where lamps glow faintly against stone walls. The sounds of the day fade, replaced by the soft shuffle of pilgrims finding places to rest. The city breathes slowly now, as though it too is settling into sleep. The mystery of the voices in the wind returns to your thoughts. You wonder whether they are truly angelic, or perhaps the echo of centuries layered upon one another. Sometimes memory itself sings, blending the past and the present into notes too delicate to explain. Whatever their source, they bring calm rather than fear, wonder rather than doubt. They remind you that the land itself holds secrets that cannot be bound by history alone. The crisp autumn air drifts around you, carrying a gentle chill that mingles with the soft murmurs of the city. Pilgrims move steadily through the streets, their steps measured, each breath a quiet prayer rising like pale smoke into the evening sky. The city itself seems to listen, holding its stones and walls in patient witness, neither intruding nor interrupting. You feel your own body relax, your mind easing its tight grasp on thought, swept along by the serene rhythm of devotion surrounding you. Every movement, every whisper, seems attuned to a slower pulse, a cadence unhurried and deliberate. Time stretches like the amber leaves turning softly on low branches, curling in the wind. In this space, the usual urgency of life dissolves, replaced by a gentle awareness of presence, faith, and quiet reflection. You are carried along, part of a calm current that unites pilgrims, city, and self in stillness and contemplation. The image of Saladin, remembered through history, is striking not for wealth or grandeur, but for simplicity and restraint. He moved lightly through the world, carrying less than his own soldiers, and leaving behind fewer possessions than most men of lesser station. You can imagine him walking the quiet halls of Damascus, his steps measured, his robes plain, his gaze steady and calm. His presence was not that of a conqueror flaunting dominion, but of a teacher radiating patience, attentiveness, and quiet authority, a calm that inspires trust rather than demands obedience. Though Saladin ruled vast lands across Egypt, Syria, and beyond, regions rich with commerce and treasures, he resisted the allure of opulence. Unlike kings and sultans who filled palaces with gold, silk, and ornamentation, he remained austere, leaving so little that his followers struggled to provide for his burial. For a ruler of such scope, this humility is almost unbelievable. Yet it defines him, a man whose greatness lay not in possessions, but in character. History honors not the wealth he might have amassed, but the integrity, restraint, and steady moral compass with which he lived, marking him as extraordinary across centuries. At night, in your imagination, Saladin's quarters appear simple and unadorned, lit only by the flicker of a single lamp. There are no gilded chests, no tapestries heavy with gold thread, only the essentials. The air carries the soft scent of parchment, the warm glow of oil lamps, and the subtle aroma of neatly folded wool garments. A sword rests nearby, not as a symbol of prestige, but as a practical tool shaped for necessity. Every element of the room reflects purpose, deliberate, measured, and oriented toward use and service rather than display. Whispers of his quiet generosity drift through history, often told rather than recorded. One story speaks of warm garments left at the doorsteps of the poor during winter, delivered anonymously. Recipients rarely knew the giver, yet the pattern of benevolence became clear. Whether legend or fact, these acts capture his essence, a ruler whose charity was natural, not performative, whose kindness carried subtle power, enduring beyond fanfare or recognition. His legacy lives not in monuments or palaces, but in the quiet impact of generosity on the human heart. Saladin's presence, as remembered, was not imposing but steady and gentle, like water flowing through a carefully carved channel. He spoke sparingly and listened intently, taking time to weigh words before acting. This approach earned him the loyalty of soldiers and subjects alike. They did not follow him from fear, but from trust. Armies marched in alignment with his leadership, not because of threats, but because they saw a man who lived close to their hardships, who shared their burdens in ways both subtle and tangible. Such bonds, forged from empathy and respect, proved stronger than any weapon, more enduring than any conquest. The paradox of Saladin's life is striking. A man of immense military prowess, capable of shaping the fate of kingdoms, yet remembered most for humility and virtue. His victories are recorded in chronicles and inscribed in the memory of nations. Yet it is his quiet acts, the walking through Damascus without display, the attention to human need, the fairness and judgment that linger longest. Power, when coupled with compassion, produces a resonance that commands respect and endures far beyond physical triumphs. Saladin demonstrates that true greatness may manifest not in spectacle, but in the measured steadiness of character. In quiet moments, you imagine him at the window of his chambers, gazing over the lights of Damascus or Cairo. The city hums softly below, markets closing, voices softening, lamps flickering in windows. Perhaps he contemplates less the triumphs of conquest and more the delicate balance of life under his rule, the continuation of faith, the flow of commerce, the ordinary rhythm of daily existence. His thoughts are measured, simple in appearance, yet far-reaching, shaping not only immediate actions, but the enduring culture of his reign. Legends suggest Saladin sometimes walked disguised among ordinary people, listening to concerns and observing life without revealing his identity. Stories recount him pausing in marketplaces, hearing the cries of merchants or the laughter of children, and responding with gestures of discreet care. These moments, whether wholly factual or partly embellished, illuminate a warmth that complements his legendary prowess. They depict a man whose power was inseparable from humility, whose leadership relied on understanding rather than domination, and whose attentiveness transformed ordinary encounters into lessons in governance and humanity. Across cultures and centuries, the memory of Saladin persists not solely because of the lands he ruled or battles he won, but because of the manner in which he carried himself. His greatness was inseparable from his simplicity, a reminder that authority need not flaunt itself. Even centuries later, the steadiness and composure he exhibited resonate like a soft lantern in the collective memory, a light illuminating not just the outcomes of power, but the virtues that make it just. Humility, patience, and quiet generosity are the legacy he leaves, enduring across time in ways monuments cannot convey. As night deepens in your imagination, Saladin's gentle presence lingers. There is no clamor of armies, no sharp command of authority. Instead, there is the rhythm of someone attuned to balance, someone whose acts of kindness ripple quietly, unseen by many, yet felt by all. This presence reassures, demonstrating that strength and gentleness need not oppose one another. Each can guide with its own form of power. The image remains, soothing, like a final note of a lullaby that reverberates long after it ends. Saladin's story, as you imagine it, becomes less about conquest and more about calm serenity that flows steadily across centuries, soft yet enduring. It is a testament to the enduring impact of virtue, a quiet strength that shapes memory, guides admiration, and reminds us that the measure of a leader lies not only in dominion, but in the gentleness and humanity they inspire. Even now, across time and distance, his calm presence whispers its lesson, that humility, compassion, and steady resolve may outlast all else, leaving a legacy that continues to illuminate the world, quietly, persistently, and with enduring grace. Night spreads gently over the hills and valleys of the Holy Land, softening the sounds of the world. The clamor of markets fades as stalls are shuttered and lanterns dim one by one. Footsteps echo faintly along cobbled streets, and the occasional call of an owl punctuates the deepening calm. A hush settles over villages and fields alike, as if the earth itself pauses to breathe. Above, the sky stretches vast and unbroken, a dome of darkness, studded with stars that gleam with extraordinary clarity. Each point of light seems alive, steady and deliberate, holding secrets and stories for those who pause to look. In the 12th century, these stars were more than decoration. They were guides for travelers navigating deserts and roads, markers of time and season, and objects of wonder and contemplation. Pilgrims and wanderers might read their patterns, seeking reassurance, direction, or meaning. In this quiet, the world feels expansive, yet intimate. Every distant sound a gentle reminder of life continuing under the same sky. The night becomes a space for reflection, a bridge between the earthly and the infinite, where the hum of human life meets the steady, patient rhythm of the cosmos. The scholars of the Islamic world paid great attention to the heavens. From Cairo to Baghdad, observatories kept watch, and in Damascus too, men bent over astrolabes and manuscripts, tracing the movements of celestial bodies with precision. In these lands, astronomy was not separated from daily life, but woven into it, helping travelers find their way across deserts, guiding the times of prayer, and offering rulers knowledge about seasons and tides. To look up at the sky was to see both the beauty of creation and the rhythm of the earth reflected in its lights. One account from these years mentions the passing of a comet. It was said to streak across the night sky like a burning brushstroke, startling both villagers and scholars. To some, it was a sign of divine intention. To others, a simple yet awe-inspiring natural event. The chronicles describe people gathering outside their homes, pointing upward, whispering prayers, or simply standing still in wonder. The Holy Land was no stranger to war or turmoil, but in that moment, eyes lifted together, and silence settled more deeply than any battlefield could command. The mysteries of the heavens held a particular fascination. Some manuscripts, preserved only in fragments, speak of a night when a constellation seemed to vanish. Stars familiar to shepherds and sailors were said to dim until they could no longer be seen. The next night, the constellation returned as if nothing had happened. Was it an error of memory, a trick of the atmosphere, or something stranger still? The texts remain unclear, blurring the line between observation and legend. Historians still debate whether it was real or poetic imagination. Imagine, for a moment, the scholars gathered on a rooftop in Jerusalem, scrolls and ink at their side, their eyes trained upward. The city beneath them sleeps, its stone walls gleaming faintly in the moonlight, but they are awake, intent on the heavens. They whisper calculations, note alignments, trace the arc of the moon. Yet even they, with their learning and instruments, must have felt a sense of humility before the sheer vastness of the sky. Knowledge could measure angles and record eclipses, but wonder could not be contained. For the ordinary people of the land, the stars were companions. Travelers on pilgrim roads spoke of Orion guiding them through the desert nights, while merchants used the North Star to keep their caravans steady on long journeys. Children, lying awake, counted familiar shapes: the hunter, the bull, the swan. These constellations became stories told by firelight, tying human life to the heavens with strands of imagination and faith-dotted times. The night sky was also feared. Unusual events, a blood-red moon, a sudden eclipse, could stir anxiety. Chroniclers write of bells ringing in prayers, rising when shadows passed across the sun or the moon. Yet even fear carried within it a kind of reverence. The heavens were not dismissed, but acknowledged as powers beyond human reach. In this way, awe and dread intertwined, shaping the spiritual mood of the age. The beauty of the Holy Land sky was intensified by its clarity. Dry air and high hills meant that stars appeared sharp, brilliant, and unshaken by haze. A traveler from Europe might remark with astonishment at the brightness, saying the heavens here seemed closer than anywhere else. Looking up, the stars appeared almost like lanterns hung by an unseen hand, each one glowing steadily, a reminder of both distance and nearne sestat as night deepens. Silence envelops the land. City walls melt into shadow. Olive groves blur into soft shapes, and only the stars remain bright. They speak without words, offering a sense of continuity, watching over crusaders and pilgrims, rulers and servants, year after year. Empires may burn and fade, kingdoms rise and fall, yet the stars persist, steady and constant. Their quiet presence is both indifferent and reassuring, a timeless witness to human toil, conflict, and devotion, reminding all beneath them of endurance and the calm beyond earthly strife. You sit within this stillness and realize why the chronicles lingered on such sights. They were not only records of celestial events, but windows into human feeling. To gaze upward was to escape, if only for a moment, from the weight of earth. To write of a missing constellation or a comet's flame was to acknowledge the fragility of life and the enduring rhythm of the universe. The Holy Land, despite its turmoil and strife, offered moments of stillness. Amid stone walls, bustling markets, and distant battlefields, the night sky stretched vast and unbroken, its stars shining steadily above all. Travelers, pilgrims, and inhabitants alike could pause, lift their gaze, and find a quiet constancy in their light. These stars became a silent scripture, their glow carrying patience, endurance, and mystery. Across the centuries, they reminded all who looked upward that even amid chaos, there exists a larger, enduring order a tapestry of light and wonder, patient and eternal, silently guiding, comforting, and inspiring those beneath it. The city rests under the cloak of darkness, its walls washed silver by the light of the moon. Jerusalem, so often described in chronicles of war and devotion, now lies in stillness. The stones of its ramparts glow faintly, as if they are quietly holding the memory of centuries. No voices rise, no sounds of conflict remain. Only the breath of the wind moves through narrow alleys, carrying with it the faint fragrance of incense drifting from hidden courtyards. The moon hangs low and steady, casting its reflection upon rooftops and domes. The great walls, which once bore the weight of siege engines, now carry nothing more than the soft shimmer of night. Shadows stretch across them, gentle and elongated, moving slowly as the hours pass. It feels as though time itself has softened, like water flowing calmly in a broad and quiet river. Every ripple of history continues on, but here, in this hour, the current is serene. In gardens behind stone walls, cypress trees sway. Their dark outlines seem to whisper, though no words are formed. A pool of water reflects the heavens, stars trembling on its surface with each faint stir of breeze. Lamps left burning inside small shrines flicker and waver, their glow joining with the moonlight to weave a tapestry of calm. It is as if the city itself exhales, releasing its burdens into the air, letting them dissolve into the night. From the hilltops, one can look out and see the faint silhouette of the desert. Its dunes are barely visible, softened by shadow, yet their presence reminds the traveler that beyond Jerusalem stretches the long road of time. Caravans once moved there, battles once thundered across the plains, but tonight it is empty, silent, unbroken. The desert mirrors the sky vast, dark, eternal. Within the city, narrow streets are hushed. The stones underfoot, worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims, glisten faintly in the dew. Along these streets once passed the armored march of crusaders, the gentle steps of monks, the hurried flight of merchants, and the solemn walk of rulers. Now, however, only memory lingers, like a faint song half remembered. Each step you imagine seems softened, cushioned by the weight of years. The air carries the fragrance of wood smoke and myrrh. Somewhere, perhaps in a chamber lit by a single lamp, incense still smolders. Its curls rise slowly, fading into the air, blending with the darkness. That fragrance lingers in thought, subtle yet soothing, as though the city itself offers a quiet blessing. The scent of pine from distant hills and the faint sweetness of figs from gardens mingle with it, creating a harmony only possible in the quiet of night. Above all, the moon continues her watch. She bathes domes and arches with silver, softening every hard edge, making even the towers appear gentle. The moon has seen everything: sieges, prayers, celebrations, and grief. Yet she remains, night after night, steady, offering her light freely, reminding those below that all moments, even the most turbulent, eventually fade into calm. God has said that time in such a place does not move in straight lines, but in circles. The chants of priests, the calls to prayer, the footsteps of travelers, all return in echoes, like ripples spreading outward in endless repetition. To sit within Jerusalem under this night is to feel those circles converge. The present becomes inseparable from the past, and yet the weight of centuries does not crush but cradles. The silence becomes protective, as if the city, worn yet enduring, wraps its arms around the listener. The world beyond these walls continues. Armies may gather, courts may speak, and rulers may plot. Yet here, in this gentle hour, there is no urgency. There is only breath, light, fragrance, and silence. The city does not demand attention. It invites rest. You may close your eyes and still see it. The pale reflection of moonlight on stone, the soft movement of shadows, the whisper of a breeze carrying incense through the dark. All of it drifts together, dissolving into the river of time, flowing ever onward. As night deepens, you drift through the city, no longer an observer, but part of its quiet flow. Towers blur into outlines, alleys melt into mist, and stars above dim like fading lanterns. Time carries everything: sorrow, hope, memory, silence, and smooths it into calm. You move weightless, unburdened, embraced by the gentle current of hours. Each step, each breath, becomes part of the night's rhythm, and the world softens around you. In this serene passage, there is only peace, a quiet surrender to the flow of time, a sense of being carried beyond all care and unrest. And now, dear listener, the journey has brought us here, to the quietest edge of night. The story of Saladin, of Jerusalem, of Crusaders and Pilgrims, has folded itself into the soft shadows. The walls that once echoed with cries now stand wrapped in silver calm. History has passed, yet its echoes remain, gentle as distant bells. Let this silence surround you. Imagine the cool stone beneath your hand, the fragrance of incense rising slowly, the moonlight spilling across the earth. All of it is yours now, not as a burden, but as a comfort. You are safe within this timeless stillness, embraced by centuries that no longer rush but rest. Breathe slowly and deeply, as if drawing in the night's calm itself. With each inhale, the burdens of the day slip away. The stars above gradually fade, leaving only the gentle embrace of darkness, soft and warm, like a comforting blanket wrapped around you, carrying serenity into every corner of your being. As you drift further into this calm, let your thoughts become lighter, like leaves carried by a stream. There is no need to hold them. The river of time will carry them for you. All that remains for you is rest. So close your eyes now. Let the story dissolve into silence. Let the silence become sleep, and let sleep carry you into dreams. Good night, my friend. Rest well, and until we meet again, may peace and stillness remain with you always.